You know what I've always loved? Pokemon and fighting games. So as you could probably guess, to someone like me, the release of Pokken Tournament was a long time dream come true. But as happy as I am that we finally did get an official Pokemon fighter, in the years before that, there was actually something else that managed to satisfy that craving long before Bandai Namco could. Of course, there can't be anything else I'm referring to but Pokemon type Wild. I mean, it is what I wrote in the title after all. How do I even begin to talk about this game? Just take a look at it. Even from just a few seconds of footage, it blows away all of those wacky over-the-top ROM hacks and creepypasta games. Made from scratch 2D animation, original voice clips, detailed and varied backgrounds, and even an assist feature. This is easily one of, if not the most high-quality fan game I've ever played. There's so much effort put into this, it's almost unbelievable that it's a freely distributed fan work. If I didn't know any better, I'd almost believe that this was some sort of leaked prototype of an official game. And then I'd see some of Gardevoir's victory animations, and it would become abundantly clear that it was made by fans. For those of you that are among the crowd that has never seen or heard of this game before, you're in for a treat. Let's start with a bit of background. Type Wild is a very weird little project that started circulating the internet years back. It was created by someone known as Pokemore. Supposedly, this person is a former animator for the Pokemon anime. This is often brought up whenever anyone talks about this game, but I couldn't actually find anything confirming this, so it may just be a rumor. But considering how well all of the animation in this game looks, it's certainly a believable statement. The version I'm currently playing is the Beta 5.3, the last update that the game ever received over 5 years ago. Although more content was planned, updates ceased without, as far as I'm aware, any stated reason. The logical conclusion is that Nintendo probably threatened legal action and they had to stop. But even though this game is technically unfinished, it really doesn't feel like it. The only indication that something is missing is that there is an empty square on the character select screen, and all of the characters that are in the game feel finished, each with special moves, 3 assists, and a finishing attack. There isn't exactly a story to the game, but upon completing the single-player mode, every character gets the same ending where they're all standing around listening to this Dragonite. Then he gets a call on his cell phone from Mewtwo, and kinda just flies off and the credits roll. It's all in Japanese, obviously, so I have no idea what the heck is being said. If someone wants to tell us what all this is about, be my guest. Other than that, there aren't any special modes to play. You only have a single-player arcade mode and the essential versus mode. Like with most fighting games, the real meat of it comes from sitting down and playing it with a friend. Pokemon type Wild really puts the fan in fan game. There are all sorts of nods and references packed in that you'll be sure to notice while playing. There are stages based off of spin-off games like Pokemon Coliseum, Hey You Pikachu, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and even Battle Revolution, and many others from the anime, such as Lavender Tower, the contest stage, the opening scene from the first Pokemon movie, and that grassy background that Ash and friends spend like 3/4 of every episode walking through. What makes it all even better, though, is that every stage has a fantastic remix of music from their associated game. This game isn't all about style, it's definitely got some substance to go along with it. All of the characters play very differently, making it fun to experiment and see what you can do with all of the tools they have at their disposal. Let's start with Gengar. Being a ghost and a trickster, Gengar's moves are pretty funny to both use and watch. Crouching has him simply just sink into the ground, and pressing the heavy punch button in this state has him charge into the opponent with a boogie board like he's swimming. My favorite move with him has to be when he teleports, suddenly having a giant hammer in his hands. Another fun thing about him is his victory and loss animations. Upon winning, a haunter will appear with a bomb, and after the following explosion, he'll be left standing with his jaw hanging, and a messed up afro for some reason. And upon losing, you can see his ghost ascending out of his body, even though he's already a ghost. All of these little crazy things together really gives the character some personality and makes him a fun addition to the roster. Another nice touch is how 2 of his assist Pokemon are Medicham and Ekans, referencing Team Meanies from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. He even holds up a rescue team badge when you push the assist button too. Next up, we have Lucario and Blaziken. The reason I mention them together is that there really isn't a whole lot that's unique and interesting about the two in terms of playstyle. They both kind of feel like your typical fighting game character that's balanced at doing most things. It's a little difficult to explain as I'm not exactly the most knowledgeable or expert fighting game player out there, but I think the best example I could give is that these two are sort of the Ryu and Ken of this game, if that makes any sense to you. I'm not trying to say that as a negative or that they're not fun to play or anything, because that's definitely far from the truth. By the way, I find it weird that Lucario has a human for an assist. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be from one of the movies or something. I think his name is Aaron? Next is Combusken. Wait, what? You had hundreds of Pokemon to choose from and you went with 2 from the same evolution line? Well, I guess it's still better than having Pikachu and Mewtwo twice. Surprisingly though, Combusken plays completely different from Blaziken. Combusken is a lot more agile and has special moves that rush forward. And although he lacks a true projectile, Fire Spin is fun for catching opponents who try to jump in at you. However, the absolute best thing about playing Combusken is the crouch animation. The next Pokemon I want to talk about is Lopunny. Truthfully, Lopunny is probably one of my least favorite to play as. All of her attacks have her bouncing all over the place and I just can't get into it. Of course, Lopunny is, well, a bunny, so it makes perfect sense for her to be designed this way. A really nice touch with this character though is the high jump kick move. Just like in the main series of games, if you miss and hit the wall behind your opponent, you'll crash and take damage. And now we move on to Swalot, who is very easily the most unique character in the whole game. You see, this particular Swalot fights with the aid of a pincer inside of it. Since Swalot is a blob with no legs, the pincer makes an appearance every time you use an attack or special move with the kick buttons. The character also has a stockpile mechanic, which can be charged for up to 3 levels. With it, you can either use Swallow to restore some HP, or Spit Up to fire it out as a beam. But just be aware that if you get hurt, you'll lose all of your stockpiles. One thing that really bugs me though is this Latios girl that appears before the fight and during a loss animation. I have no idea who she is and I feel like I'm not getting a reference here. I know there was that one movie where a Latios could transform into a human, but I don't think this is supposed to be the same character as her. At least I think so. I'm sure there'll be someone in the comments who will explain it. Lastly, I just want to mention Swalot's finishing move, Gunk Shot. It's a fun little attack where it spits out all sorts of garbage at the opponent. Once again, the game manages to impress with its attention to detail, as there are different things that will be spat out at the very end each time. Sometimes the final piece of trash will be a Trubbish, maybe a Burmy, a Beldum, or a... The heck was she doing in there? Next, we have Breloom. Honestly, I don't think Breloom is anything too special compared to the rest of the cast. His moves aren't very flashy, and I get kinda bored of playing him pretty fast. He seems to have a good moveset to work with though. Seed Bomb is a retreating projectile, and Mach Punch comes out as a stretchy arm attack. And Drain Punch, when landed, will restore a little bit of health. Then there's Snorlax. Snorlax is obviously the big guy of this game. He moves real slow, but hits real hard. Ordinarily, I don't like these kinds of characters in fighting games, but Snorlax is kinda fun. Body Slam is a very satisfying thing to land, but I'm pretty bad when it comes to close-range command grabs like this. I've also noticed that all of his assist Pokemon are other Pokemon that Ash had and just sort of forgot about. And last but not least, we have Gardevoir. I actually had the most fun playing as this character. Gardevoir's playstyle is based around keeping yourself distanced from your opponent. She has a ranged grab attack that will let you hurl the other player across the screen. There is also a teleport move that is very handy for getting yourself into position for attacking. Earlier, something I briefly touched upon was Gardevoir's victory animations. Out of all the characters in this game, it seems that Gardevoir has more than anyone. In fact, I think that overall, Gardevoir has more effort put into her than almost anything else in this game. I can't possibly imagine why that would be. And that was Pokemon Type Wild. Although it's completely abandoned and unfinished, it's still an otherwise really great fan game. If you're a huge fan of Pokemon, then I definitely recommend getting some friends together and trying it out sometime. After all of the time I've spent with it, it seems pretty well balanced, and during the times when I had no idea what I was doing, it was still fun to just mess around and see what each of the characters could do. It'd be amazing to see more added to this game, but now that Pokken is a thing, the chances of Nintendo allowing a project like this to continue have officially fallen to 0. But in the end, I've still got Pokemon fighting games to play to get my fix. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this. I've never really broken down and talked about a fighting game before, but it was a fun topic to try out. Thanks again, and see y'all next time.